couple songs that I annotated a very long time ago that I haven't known what to do with. And one of those songs is Hush Rush. I had my annotations, I did them a long time ago. I didn't really want to look back at them, but I did want to talk about this song in some way. And eventually, I had the idea after the release of Don't. I kind of wanted to talk about how they interact with each other, the intertextuality of everything. I love intertextuality. So, yeah, we're just going to go through all of her title tracks and discuss how they interact, I guess you could say. Look, I think it's interesting looking at what each of them are attempting to do. I once took a class called dramatic action where with every line of dialogue, we had to determine what the character was trying to do with that dialogue. And I think that that is something that stands out to me about Chaeyeon's music. Like Hush Rush is sort of portraying this feeling, Knock is about communication, Let's Dance is this action, and Don't is a command. Maybe that's not as interesting to other people as it is to me, but I quite enjoy thinking about how that stacks up, works. I don't know. Getting more specifically into Hush Rush, in verse one, they say, "Over the moon, it's making me dizzy." They also say, "My heart that kick started." And I like the use of it and that. There's sort of distance, but they establish they're not responsible until specifically the word step, in my opinion. I won't stop after the curtain rises step. I really like how that is incorporated right at the end, kind of taking things in a different direction. And saying my heart that kickstarted is really avoiding taking further action, in my opinion. I really like how in this verse also there's moon anthropomorphism in the foreground. Um, as you will see throughout the songs, there's a lot of there's a moon motif, which makes sense because Chan kind of has this strange vampire concept, which I always forget about and is kind of confusing because I feel like most soloists don't have a specific concept. It seems more like a group thing, but the vampire thing does come up often, and I'm always like, oh yeah, that's a thing. So the moon is kind of important here. And moving into the chorus, Hush Rush on the stage, I'm going crazier, I don't care. They're embracing this feeling. They don't care about feeling crazy. In the refrain, they say, I love it, I love it, I love it. The I and the it are more semantically connected, but it's an internal comment at first. I also say our eyes met. You could compare meet versus met in this case. There's sort of a direct relationship there. They say the nervousness doesn't stop. For me, this is interesting because you could say the nervousness or you could say nerves, but it's more of a unified thing to say just the nervousness, which is interesting. Um, I don't feel like this song is an apostrophe. Like, yes, you can ask who is making her dance, but the hush rush is now internal as we go through the refrain. So they say they fall into it, that I'm falling in. Uh, this it is making them dance, but there feels like a lot of naturality in this interaction is not the word. It just feels like this is a very natural process going on, I guess you could say. And in the second verse, they have two simple sentences paired in one line, kind of portraying the ease of this relationship with the hush rush. They kind of portray that love is better without processing. The brain resists this jump, and in absurdism, it would make sense if you would jump without having to consider falling down as a rule. In the theater of the absurd, they take away rules about reality, so that would make sense. We also have lose, leave, feel. There's ace and debt in here, which kind of portrays a sense of ease. And in the last line of the second verse, they say, split the light, holler, yeah. They're taking up space, they're making noise. There's this self-confirmation. I think it's very effective. In the next refrain, we have a sense of unity. There is a dependent clause because they're not really processing things, but the heart is compared to another being's more natural process in saying my blooming heart. The heart is also personified, the faster my heart flutters so that it never stops calling me. It's interesting having independent body regions depend on less complex organisms' ways. It's kind of like line characters being able to see more, having a sense of moral sight that people who have regular vision don't have. There is a conjunction here so that it never stops calling me, but it's not connected to independent clauses. There is no compound sentence. They're almost stringing along theoretical grammatical complexity. They also say that again, so that it never stops calling me. There is some distance here. They're catching up to something. There's pursuit and feeling might be more important than actual achievement. Um, in the bridge, things are very abstract. They refer to knowing, which has an association with sin. There's an admission of guilt, but it's broken down to feelings that evade shame, simple in their abstract nature, and they are sort of addicted to. They say holic me, holic me, holic me, again and again. They are addicted. They are addicted, and that is the only way they get to speak directly and ask things of the subject, which is interesting. That's all I have to say about Hush Rush for now. Maybe I'll come back to it again in who knows when. I think you can kind of sum up this song by saying it's about continuing to move forward, and that is an interesting thing to write a song about, in my opinion. When it comes to knock, obviously there's onomatopoeia, such direct communication. Really, with everything, there's a sense of immediacy. In the first verse, the abstract is cut off quick. The abstract is made tactile and personal. In the pre-chorus, they're using their senses, leaving out it, not in their grasp, as they are having a hard time controlling things. They have simple feelings, but without responsibility. And when they say, when our eyes meet, come a little closer, now wake up, the eyes are meeting again, like in Hush Rush, and they meet this time rather than met. And saying, come closer, wake up. Again, there's this immediacy, there is taking claim. So in the post chorus, they say, get me high, much higher now, come over the moonlight. They're very prompt. Again, there is the moon motif, there's a star motif. They're adopting the star quality but maintaining tactility with the knocking. In the second verse, they're trying to live in good faith. Again, they let go of the mind but retain intelligence in that. And in the bridge, they say, don't make me wait no more. Knocking leading to breaking. The night goes on slowly, slowly, come a little closer. Again, they're very prompt. The lines themselves are stuffed even with internal woes. And they sort of introduce this breaking motif. There's desperation, needing others rather than needing others not to judge and change them, which is all very fun. Like I said, very much based around this idea of immediacy. And then when we have Let's Dance, the ideas of going beyond, in my opinion. So the refrain starts by saying, Let's dance. It was so lit. It's interesting the word was. You're kind of going beyond caution and questioning, beyond understanding. In the first verse, there are kind of they refer to no manners. We've gone beyond a need for decorum. There's only one way of going about things. There are lines that are stuffed versus lines that are sparse. The verse is letting go, and they don't care about anything except dancing. Referring to the body is losing yourself again, and you have to ask, is this good faith or reduction of the mind? In the pre chorus, there's no standard protocol. There's the rising motif. There's a party versus the former hush rush. What does this mean for the self? I think is something that is important to ask. When we get to the chorus, there's boiling, there's life with purpose, and you have to ask, is that almost naive in a way? And in the second verse, they're unpredictable versus there is repetition, epistrophe. They're making predictability hard to follow with quick new details, and they acknowledge their fears but reassure of expectations and give advice even if the subject differs. And then in the bridge, they claim this signature with the ABBA Dancing Queen, but they will invite anyone. So even though they have this signature, this is kind of them opening up to the world, which is interesting. And then finally, we have don't, which I feel is about facing a representation of this person they used to believe. In the first verse, there is this realism, the mundane, almost reductive, just saying on a crappy phone call, why can't I stop? There's a reversal of initial sentiments and impressions regarding how they talk about being able to stop and acting crazy. There's also the question of I believe versus I believe you. Things are kind of more implicit, just believing in general. When they say ring my bell, ring my bell, ring my bell, even after this, you have to consider knocking versus ringing my bell, what that means for them, how they've changed their manner of communication. Um, there is the mundane but dramatic laughter, press red, ha ha ha, and things sound more like they're about articles than about her, because of the whole Queendom puzzle fiasco. I do genuinely wonder if this song is partially based around the backlash that she got for how she acted on Queendom Puzzle. And then the chorus, dumb, this one word packs more than its normal connotation. They represent themselves in a fragile way. The shaking that they refer to is almost like her former dancing, but transformed into something new. In the refrain, they say, don't several times, don't call me Charlie, but also please call me Charlie. Um, Obviously, Charlie versus Chaeyeon. Uh, you could say that saying me, comma Charlie is saying I am Charlie. You could also, it could be her telling herself not to bring Charlie out and wanting to have a persona intact. Charlie versus Chaeyeon. The second verse, they're very abstract in the beginning. They're desperate for control, but things are cyclical. Crazy is not fun anymore. There's a missed call, which is kind of like a bad decision, and they miss their old self, but would rather be sad than be weak. And then in the bridge, they say, it's completely changing. It's too late anyway. Oh, I don't want it. Don't be more mistaken. Done. No more freaking calls at 2 a.m. Stop. Don't call me. The lines are stuffed, as you can tell. They can't get a moment of reprieve. There are demands with character, but we never know the true character behind any of it. And that's kind of where my annotations end. I hope that this was interesting. It wasn't very structured. It wasn't structured very well, at least. But as always, people tell me that my videos are like college lectures. So I will be leaving my syllabus in the comments, and you can look at it as you choose, as you so choose. And yeah, thank you. Bye.